So I'm here
Right.
with dating coach Arthur Faulstrom. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you very much. How are you?
Definitely, I was looking at your brand, Honest Masculinity. What is it that you exactly do?
I teach men to be more honest when dating and also when in relationships, because I think it's the fastest and easiest ways to, build healthy relationships with people around you, especially with romantic partners. And the masculinity part comes from the fact that, I've seen growing up that we're not doing a very good job at encouraging especially young men in pursuit of what they want to like be assertive and all of that. Which you need to be assertive if you want to get what you want in the world. Like, then nobody's going to hand it to you. And today I feel like, especially for like assertive young men, we oftentimes, tell them they're toxic or there's something wrong with it, which is very, very bad thing to do. And we can see the repercussions today. Like, um you can see the manosphere developing into like quite radical ways too, which is psychology 101. If you suppress something, it will hit you back 10 times as hard. And I think it's very, very tragic thing, and I hope to do my part in like kind of bringing back a healthy view on masculinity. So that's where it comes from, more or less.
Oh, that's really awesome. Like, I think like, there's a lot of misconceptions about dating coaches nowadays that like, some of them are misogynistic. Like how do you feel about like, that label, like, specifically with dating coaches?
Well, I get labeled like that all the time, but I'm not. I know that I love women. I have a mother, I have a lot of sisters, and I just want the best for them. And you know, I'm trying to be a man that they would be proud of. So I don't take this stuff too seriously. The thing is, there are some dating coaches who are misogynistic, and especially like the pickup scene where it originally came from was kind of manipulative, and there's still a lot of manipulative stuff in it. If you just look at like common advice, right? Like wait 1 day to text her so she's chasing you. That's complete manipulation. So I mean, that's like if you want to know the quickest way into a toxic relationship, just do that. And so I can see where that comes from. But on the other hand, I also see that if I teach men to just approach women, I've been labeled as a misogynist just to like encourage them to do this. And this is something that, I think where the whole problem is, that because nowadays we see everybody is a misogynist. You cannot really, separate the real misogyny from just genuine desire to meet somebody or genuine like assertive behavior, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. You talk about being honest, but like one of the things I found in like, my personal experiences, and especially like, with people doing manipulative behavior, like there's a lot of women who do like, manipulative behavior. So like when you're being honest, I feel like, you're kind of at a disadvantage if someone is like, being manipulative and running game. Like, how do men combat that and get to a level like, where they're being authentic with women?
Yeah,
About
yeah. So the thing is, well, the first thing is when you start opening yourself up. So I'm honest from the second that I meet somebody, right? And the manipulative women, they're gonna run for the hills
right.
because it's just I've been on dates with women where they told me like, no, I cannot do this. I lie sometimes, I cannot handle this kind of honesty. And actually, they were honest about being like manipulative, and I was like, well, yeah, goodbye. And the other thing is that if you have solid boundaries, then which I also teach to guys, have like boundaries where you don't invite manipulative people into your life. Because what manipulative people tend to do is they use your emotions to control you or to push you in a certain direction. And if you're aware of that and you're able to stand up for yourself, then you can cut off that manipulative behavior. And if they continue to do that, I'm going to end the relationship with a woman in that case, and I also encourage like men to do the same thing. So that's kind of the key to avoid that.
Most definitely. I've noticed like one of the things I don't like about like dating coaches, ideally, because they make it seem that like any woman can be had. Like if you like improve yourself and it starts,
Yeah.
with the the idea that there's something wrong with you a lot of times, and that you have to fix these things, as far as like improving your grooming, or your improving, as far as like the way that you dress. And the end of the day, regardless, like you're gonna get rejected. You could be the biggest movie star in the world, and people are going to reject you. It's not like necessarily everybody doesn't bat 1,000 all the time.
No, but what I hear you say is what a lot of people say about like this whole dating coach sphere in general. And I understand where that comes from, because a lot of dating coaches actually teach you to put on a facade.
Yeah.
But honestly, like the things that I teach is kind of the opposite, right? Like if you're honest, you're being yourself, because honesty is being yourself. It
Right.
just there for like if we have a conversation and I tell you to be honest, like I cannot tell you what to say, like that you have to figure that out for yourself. So honesty is always something that comes from a place from authenticity. And the other like side to it is, of course, you're well, like yes, you are okay the way you are, but there's always room for improvement,
Right.
right? So let's say if you work on your grooming, or like your style perhaps, or your body, like your fitness, when you do this to impress women, that's actually unattractive. So you should do this to feel good about yourself,
Right.
right? If I'm at home and I don't see anybody, I'm still dressing up nicely, wearing fragrances just because I feel awesome like this. I don't really do it to like impress people, just because I like myself better that way. I feel better about myself. And I think that should be always the origin of any self-improvement approach, that you do it for yourself. Like and then if you're a person who loves himself, then it's like the cliche thing to say, but it's actually right. You will invite people to you who are gonna love you for who you are, because you love yourself. And then there's also the part, I've talked to people that were complete nerds, jerking off 3 times a day, living with their mom, unemployed, having no friends. And they're like, no, I want the women to like me for who I am. I'm like,
Right.
dude, like, no. First of all, you cannot tell me that you like yourself that way. And secondly, well, okay, if you want to be that way, then fine. And maybe you will even find some, gamer girl who's into this stuff. But like 99% of the women are not going to want you if you have this kind of personality. And so it's like, pick what you want. I'm not saying like you need to live in a certain way, but if you want to become attractive, then it's going to be problematic. Like if you sit at home, you're not good groomed, you don't have any social circle, you have nothing going on, and then you say, well, I'm fine. Yeah, it's that, you know what I mean? So what do you think
Yeah.
about this?
Well, I think like sometimes the stuff people have to take, the situations that they've been given, because I've known guys like that to describe that don't have problems like getting women to live at home with their parents and get like all the chicks. It just like seems
Yeah.
like an individual thing. Like certain people can get away with like certain things. I think like that's something that dating coaches don't necessarily take into consideration. But you were talking about honesty. And like I was looking on your page, and you said you went on a date and you've had this bad experience with a prostitute that you shared. What was the experience with the prostitute?
What was the experience?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Well, so um first of all, to give you kind of context here, like I lost my virginity to a prostitute when I was 18, okay?
Okay.
And the 4 years after, I only slept with prostitutes. And my shame level was rising and rising and rising because of that. I didn't tell anybody about it, not my best friend, like nobody. And then there was this one point, and I slept with that prostitute. It was quite attractive, actually. Like I really loved like her body and everything, what is going on. And and then I was fucking her, and like the whole room started smelling like shit. And that was kind of the bad experience I had. So I'm not sure why that was the case. I had a friend telling me, "Oh, you had a piece of shit in your asshole moving around." I don't know. Which I just know that I felt so embarrassed because like the room was smelling like shit. She was probably smelling it. And this is an experience I shared with a girl on the way home. So I was already taking that girl to my place. And I told her that in French, and I didn't really speak French well at that time. So I'm not even sure if she actually understood what I was telling her. But then she reacted like she didn't say anything. And then I was like, well, did you have experiences like this too, where like really embarrassed? And she said, of course I do, right? And as I said in the video, like 10 minutes later, I slept with her. So what I wanted to say with this is that sometimes you can do the complete counterintuitive thing, and especially if it's true what you say, it might be fine, right? And the good thing is that then if you share these things about yourself with the person that you're with, you can be completely comfortable about anything that like makes up your personality, like embarrassing, whatever. And I've like this happens to me all the time, that women tell me, I've never been as honest with anybody in my life before. Like 2 weeks ago, I went on a date with a woman and she told me, um, she's never been as honest with her parents
Wow.
but she had a toxic relationship with her parents because they were like abusive alcoholics and all of that. So it's kind of obvious why she wouldn't be honest to them. But I still think it's actually quite sad thing, right? So that they walk around like she was 30, like 30 years in her life, and she could never open up to anybody on the first date that way. And yeah, like it's just, it creates emotional connection, it creates trust, it creates authentic relationships. And I think it's just like 100% necessary for having like a fulfilling relationship that you want. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. What are some of the success stories that you've had, like, doing this dating coaching thing?
Business wise, or what do you mean?
Well, like helping people, turning their situation around. You talked about working with guys and stuff and everything who live at home, jerking off 3 times a day. Have you ever seen a complete transformation of anyone?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm doing this for 1.5 years now. And like, this is a long-term process. And I also didn't have like crazy many clients so far, right? So, um, but the guys, like, there's one specific guy I've been working with for a long time. And he was also my first client. Uh, it didn't turn his whole life around so far, but he definitely made improvements, So he's making out with women like every week, every 2 weeks or something now, and he's getting them to his place, and I think he will have like, it depends on what you regard as success. Like for him, that's like a huge success. If you say, okay, the success is sex or getting laid, then I'm sure that will follow soon. Um, but yeah, definitely, I've seen guys make transformation like this. I mean, I've talked to a guy that wasn't a client, but I've been very honest with him, and then he told me like, yeah, he's a virgin, and we are like kind of like friends, right? And then he, like, 1 week later, he told me that he started sharing it with people around him, like his family and everything. He was hiding it before, and then he started sharing it. So it's really a matter, like, if you're honest in your life, you're gonna inspire people around you to start telling the truth too. And I think that's an awesome thing, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty cool. Like, a lot of people are ashamed of lack of sexual experience. I think that's the opposite. It should be in culture. Like, it's nothing cool about having sex with lots of women, and stuff and everything. Like, I think a lot of people, specifically these dating coaches, make it seem like that's the aspiration or that's the goal. And I can say, I mean, honestly, from my own life experiences, that doesn't fulfill you, that's kind of empty. It's better, like from my perspective at least, to be in a long-term relationship with one woman. That's like my idea. I'm Christian, so
Yep.
I believe in monogamy. And there's a lot of times in culture that some women just don't believe in that. They don't want to be monogamous. They want to have poly relationships, and that's cool. But I think monogamy is really cool. Like, I'm looking for a long-term relationship. I'm not trying to hook up, just with all these random women.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
40. Well, I think it also depends on the kind of your life situation, right? Like if you're 40, then it kind of is also a different thing than when you're like 25, right? So
100%, yeah.
when you're 25, hooking up might be something fun. I'm 25 now, and I'm more looking into hooking up than into long-term relationship. But I do want, like, when I'm in my 30s,
Yeah.
um, I'm pretty sure then, if you've done that for years, that at one point I would say, okay, well, I want a monogamous long-term relationship now. And I can see that. Like, I want to have family at one point, and I'm not sure, if that's a good thing. Like, if you have a polygamous relationship and a family, I don't know. I wouldn't want to live like that, honestly. So when I start having a family, I would want to have like a monogamous relationship. So I absolutely agree with you. But out of curiosity, so when I spoke to you, right, you said that you have trust that God is going to send you the right woman. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Like, be
yeah,
religious.
yeah, man.
So
I do. Well, like, I mean, I understand your point because you said like, you have to go get them. Like, so I just
yeah,
I believe you can't go looking for love, like, and stuff, everything, like, where it's like, it just finds you, like, naturally, like, doing your purpose, you find your person. Like, I've been married before. I was married for 10 years, and like, I didn't go looking for my wife, like, and stuff. She just, like, like, I was just going about my day, and like, I ended up meeting somebody who I thought was cool, and like, it built from there, and like, we ended up getting married. We have 3 kids. But the thing is, like, I just don't feel like, and stuff, everything, like, I had to look for, or like, and stuff, I did anything, like, where, like, I'm putting myself out there. I'm just living my life. And I think, like, that's how it happens, is like, you're living your life. Tomorrow you can meet the person and stuff and everything you're gonna spend the rest of your life with. It's just like, you don't think about it, or it's not like something and stuff that you prepare for. Maybe there's things you could do, like, to prepare for it, but like, it wasn't anything like I did, or like, I couldn't say like I manufactured it, or like, it wasn't any lines. It was just totally organic and natural. And like, you
but
just
okay. I see that, and I agree with that too, like, to a certain extent. But when you met her, like, did you initiate the conversation with her? Did she initiate the
no, I
conversation?
initiated the conversation, and like, I got her phone number. We started like texting regularly, like, and I talked to her for like a month, like, just over the phone. Like, we never, before we even like went out and stuff, everything, but we would text. And she was really cool because, like, she was Christian, and like, we prayed together, and like, we were like, I talked to her. I was honest, like, like your advice of like, being honest about like, things and stuff that I was going through in my life. Because at the time, like, I was fighting a robbery charge for like,
Oh,
yeah,
but did you
yeah.
do it? Did you do it, or was it like
It was
unjust
kind
charge?
of over exaggerated. All I did was like, so I was with these guys, and like, it was a Craigslist robbery. That came and put and I was high out of my mind. They came and put the iPad in the car, and they told me to drive away, and I
Oh,
did.
and
And
you
I
didn't know.
did.
So you didn't know.
No, I knew, but I was high. Like, what I mean, and stuff. I wouldn't have did it, like, if I wasn't high, like, but so they
Wait,
like,
but robbery means they go in with a gun and threaten the guy,
yeah,
say like,
so
"Give me the
he
iPad."
said, so it happened in South Central. So he said it was a gun. There was no gun. So really, the charge should have been receiving stolen property. But like, what I mean, they charged us robbery because he said it was a gun, but it wasn't no gun involved. So like, but yeah, you
That's great. That's like the serious GTA material,
know,
man.
yeah, and like, but like, I was kind of like going through that situation. I was like fighting a case, and like, she was really supportive. And like, I come from like a family, like, like, where, people don't do crimes and stuff like that. Like, my parents have like professional jobs and stuff. So like, they were really like down on me, and like, that you've like ruined your life. But like, she was like saying, no, you didn't ruin your life. And like, I didn't. And but we kind of like built up on that, and like, I ended up like, going to like see her, and we moved in together, and like, we ended up getting married. And like, it was just like, something and stuff, everything that happened. It wasn't anything like, necessarily that, like, I feel like I could have prepared for or planned for, or like I felt it was like from God. Like, God sent me this specific person for this season of my life. And I feel like, like, a lot of times people try to force things, like, where it's like, it's like, because they like this girl, like, that she looks physically attractive. I've even done that. Whereas like, I see like, sometimes the girl is physically attractive, or maybe like she checks off some boxes on my list, but like, necessarily that person isn't for you. And it's a lot of times like, where you're fighting against the universe, where it's like, you may want a person, but like, no matter what you do, that person is not for you.
Yeah. You know what I teach is that you go out, like you live your life like you want, right? Like what's fun to you. Ultimately, if you're looking, like, because a lot of men are gonna say, I'm not looking, but they really like they sit at home thinking, oh my god, why am I lonely? And then when you talk to them, they'll be like, oh no, I'm not looking for anything. I noticed because I did it. Like I was crazy lonely, crying literally in the shower because, and then I talked to people. I was like, oh no, I'm focused on my career right now. It's like that
Right.
was a fucking lie, right? So anyhow, what I teach is like, okay, you go out and you have a natural desire for women, right? That's just like in your biology to a
Right.
certain
Right.
degree. Obviously, there are exceptions. There are asexual people, gay people, whatever. But most men have like a biological desire for women. And what I teach them is, okay, you go out, you look people in the eye, and if they're somewhat attracted to you, they're gonna give you longer eye contact usually than other people. Sometimes they're even gonna smile at you
Right. Right.
or something like this, or like stand next to you, come closer and stuff like that. And what I teach is just like, um, you pick up these hints and then you act on it. So you say, okay, she's
Hmm.
looking at me, I can introduce myself, hi, my name is whatever, and then you can go from there. You can see, if it's a natural connection, if it's not a natural connection, whatever. But I think it's good to, like, know that women do send you signals, and if you
Yeah.
do find them physically attractive, then you can just chat them up and see if you can connect on a personal level too. So, it doesn't need to be this black or white thing that you say, like, okay, I'm going in, like, and the world is gonna send everything my way, or which I agree, by the way. I think the world actually gives you a lot of gifts. It gives you opportunities like every day, really, if you
Mhm.
pay close attention to it. But also, there's like extreme approach, which I did too. Like when I started going out, I overcompensated. Like every day, 3 to 4 hours, I just like approached any women that I found attractive, and I tried to force things, and it doesn't make sense either, because then, dude, I was spending like 40% of my day talking to women. That's like a crazy amount of time. And okay, I've learned a lot on how to approach them, but a lot of it was just a waste of time. It was like overcompensation. And so I agree like to 50% with you that, you go out, you live your life in a way that you find meaningful, that you like, that you love, and then you're going to attract like-minded women into it, but then you're also able to pick up like the signals and
Right.
act out, like, at taking the initiative. So what do you think about this approach?
I agree, like like definitely I've always been good at like paying attention to signals. I think that's really important. I think one key component that I never hear dating coaches though address is like culturally. There's cultural differences. Like approaching a black woman versus like approaching like a white woman is there's usually like a lot of differences and stuff and everything. Like, like I'm from like an urban environment. I'm from the south side of Chicago, and like women there are a little bit like more aggressive, so it's like a different approach than like let's say I'm in the suburbs somewhere where it's like I can like it's different. And like how do you feel like though, do you acknowledge that like and stuff, like all women though like are pretty much like they're not a monolith. And like even though like some of those key signals like are important, but like I mean, just the approach like has to be different just based on them.
um See, when you say the approach has to be different based on them, uh then okay, like to a certain degree, yes, I think you should like accustom to the social situations that's just um social adjustments. So fair enough. But I think a lot of men actually have problems with the fact that you don't need to change for anybody. You can just be yourself.
No,
And
no, I'm not saying like be yourself, but like I feel like, so like in urban settings, like I feel like women are like generally more aggressive. So like you have to be like a little bit more assertive and like check things a lot quicker than you would necessarily like with like sometimes women from other environments, because they're softer, they're not going to like necessarily try certain things. And maybe if they do, it's like not in the way like someone from an urban environment would try things. So it's like
but
it doesn't take the you don't have to be as assertive. you
But yeah,
can just simply say,
the funny thing is, you said in the beginning, okay, like every woman is different, and there's no like one like approach to all. But now you're generalizing about urban women and women on the countryside,
well,
right? So
true, like, but there's, there's definitely exceptions and stuff, anomalies. Like, I mean, I'm thinking about, like, as far as like from my experiences of women, like I've met in, like, certain areas, like, and stuff, everything. I'm from, like, saying, the South Side of Chicago. So like women, like, generally there are like
more
aggressive.
aggressive.
Yeah, like, where it's like, women and stuff, everything, like, in other areas, like, they're not like, necessarily gonna say like what's on their mind, or like, I'm not saying like all women are like that. It's very, you could probably go, to any, like, rural area and find, like, women who are probably aggressive. But like, the what I notice is like a lot of women, for whatever reason, from where like I'm from, like, have a different demeanor than women like from other parts of the country that I've met.
Yeah, but I think, this is what we do a lot today. And yeah, what we say, okay, the group, like, or the social status determines your behavior on an individual level. And I don't think that's true. I mean, yes, like your environment is going to influence your behavior, especially when you're a kid, right? Like
Yeah,
the things you pick up when you're a kid is actually very, very influential. But you can take two persons that this is an experiment done in psychology where they actually found this out. You put them in the same environment and they're still gonna you know develop into two completely different human beings. And
right.
that's so the
That reminds me
individual.
of like the book by like Wes Moore. He's like the governor of Maryland, and like he wrote the book, like, the other Wes Moore, and it's about, like, somebody who grew up, like, a couple blocks from, that had similar situations. The one Wes Moore grew up to be like a criminal, and the other Wes Moore obviously became the governor of Maryland. And like, he talks about, like, why he thinks that was.
Yeah, and the exact thing is because you're, first of all, your IQ determines a lot where you're going to end up in life, because your IQ is the major key for let's say economic success.
Mhm.
Second one is hard work. And that's actually what I love about USA, that in
Yeah.
that country, that's what this whole idea is built on, right? That you can work yourself out of poverty, and if you just like work hard and whatever. Obviously it's like it's an ideal, right? Like it's not going to happen always. But the key
No,
is, I really do think like the individual is more like predominant when it comes to how you end up. Your individual choices, your intelligence, your work ethic,
yeah.
um, they're gonna determine where you end up. Of course, like if you grow up in the hood, like South Chicago, whatever, you probably have some harder start in life than if you grow up rich on, I don't know, uh rich neighborhood, whatever. You have better education, you have better food, your parents might be more there for you, even though here too, look. So my parents divorced very early on, and my dad is, he's done pretty decent. He makes a decent amount of money, and he's been very well off. But I was living most of the time with my mom, and she was kind of more like middle class, right? And my dad, I've never seen him because he was working. Like he was working 70, 80 hours a week, and he could give me like economic resources, especially later when I studied. And I was very privileged in that. Don't get me wrong. But on the other hand, I never saw him. Like he was never there for me. So there's always like a price to pay. Also, if you live in a rich environment, because if you live in a rich environment, usually someone in your family works a lot. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that money.
Right.
So, it's always like two-sided story.
No, 100%. Like, it's the sacrifice for the American dream. Like, I think a lot of times people don't necessarily talk about that, because like, you see like all the time though, like, a lot of times like these people who have like, really successful parents, but like they're unhappy, or the kids are like acting out. Like I knew a lot of people like in college where like, maybe their father was a judge, but like, they're like, what I'm saying, like for whatever reason they've decided to be the campus drug dealer, and like, it's like they're out of control, like, what I mean, and stuff,
Yeah.
everything. Why are they like, the young Pablo Escobar on campus?
Yeah.
The father's like a judge. I don't get it, like, and I do love America, like, you know, what you're saying, like, you know what I mean? I do believe in the idea of hard work. But like one of the things I found like with dating is like, you know, it seems like the less you do, the more you get. It's like women don't appreciate hard work. You know, would you agree?
What do you mean hard work? Like a hard work in terms of dating or?
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like you know what I mean and stuff. The less effort you put like towards women, the better off you are.
Yeah,
You
yeah, that's absolutely true. That's not just true for women, that's true for anything. No, I wouldn't say effort. It's more like attachment to the outcome, right? The
know?
more you try to force something, the less you're gonna get it. So the best way actually is to let go and say, well, okay, I cannot control the outcome. It's something very hard to get right, like to go for something, but to not be too attached to the outcome. And there's like a middle route. And let's say, okay, I'll give you an example when it comes to meeting women. So what I love and what I struggle with as well is like I didn't grow up in a very physically affectionate environment, and I also had like physical abuse, right? Like from my parents, from my peers. Like I I started to receive violence like very early. So, I wasn't the most comfortable being with, physical contact. But women love physical contact and also early. So I quickly learned that if you escalate quickly physically, that will increase your success with women. And on the other hand, you also have to kind of get to the place where you don't like push yourself onto them, but let's say you talk to them and you have the impulse to touch them on the arm, or the impulse to hug them,
Right.
then that's a good way to physically like escalate things, because you just have that impulse and you can act out on it. And that's awesome. But if you just like go into the interaction and say like, okay, I have to touch her now, like to get her into the bedroom, that's not as good. Like that will still probably work, but it's not very enjoyable, right? So it's hard to get like this route between, okay, you let go, but also not date, like sleepwalking, because a lot of people say, oh no, I'm not going to force anything, I'm not going to, like love is going to come to me, and then they walk through life. They
Right.
literally have women, that's what I did. I had women coming up to me and saying I thought about having sex with me, and I didn't do anything. It's like,
Right. Right.
or they were talking to me for hours, and then I would later say, oh no, I'm not chasing love. And it's like, dude, like, no, you're not doing anything. Like the woman's not gonna fuck you, right? Like she might approach you. That's like the maximum. Like this, what this girl did was that she was actually American, like African American women in Germany, who walked up to me like this, and that's the absolute maximum they're gonna do. But she's not gonna fuck you. Like, there maybe 1,000, I don't know. But at a certain point, you have to take the initiative. And I feel like a lot of people, they use that as an excuse. They say, oh, well, I'm not chasing love, but they don't really do anything. They literally walk around their life sleepwalking and just not taking initiative. And I don't think that's just the case with women. I think it's the case with anything. Like you're the main character of the movie, you know, of your life, and you have to live it that way. You can't just like walk around and let anything happen to you, because then, you know it's just you're super reactive. You cannot like write the story of your life. So yeah, do you know what I mean with this?
No, yeah, 100%. Like, you know, I feel like, you have to be engaged, you know, like with like what's going on around you and like, not passing up like, good opportunities. Cause I see a lot of times like guys like, where it's like they're oblivious, like, and stuff. They may be complaining about their love life, but it's like they have women like right in front of you. Cause like
Yeah.
it's an abundant world, and like I feel like you have to kind of like take advantage of your opportunities, because I see like a lot of times like people like fumble good situations where it's like this is a great opportunity where it's like you could at least meet someone and get to know them better. Maybe it leads to sex, maybe it doesn't, maybe it leads to dating or something in the long term. You know Honest Masculinity, Arthur, man, where can people contact you and like get some of your advice and wisdom?
Well, I have a website that's called honestmasculinity.com. I would encourage people to check that out. You can book a free conversation with me there, and we can have a conversation about how I can help people. So maybe you can put a link on the website in the description. That would be awesome, because that's also going to boost the website's SEO ranking. Like the more external links you have, the higher like Google is going to rank you. And yeah, I also have YouTube channel. There's some stuff on it where you can see kind of my philosophy. I'm also on Instagram, so I'm all around social media. But if you want to get my personal advice, probably fast ways, just go to my website.
Definitely. As far as like, in the future, like, what are your plans for your dating coach business? Where you hope to take it?
Yeah, like right now, my goal is just to make an online income of $800 per month, and then go to South America and build it from there.
Oh, why
So
South America?
I don't know. It's like it's not as toxically feminist. I mean, it's getting more popular there too. But I do feel like the South American women, they appreciate the guy more. I also want to learn Spanish. I just love it. It's also close to the USA, which I also like. And yeah, there's a lot of factors, and you can live quite cheaply in Colombia,
Sure.
Caribbean, Cartagena. You can go there, for example, and enjoy the sun. Caramella skinned women with feminine temperaments. So I think you can do worse than that.
Yeah, like no, that's probably like one of my dreams and stuff, to go live in Colombia. I have a friend, he like moved to Colombia. He's like living the life of his dreams, learning Spanish and stuff and everything. Like it it's pretty amazing place.
Yeah. So how did you make it happen? Does he have a business or?
Yeah, he does. Like, he has a I have a previous interview with him and stuff. He does like a bunch of different businesses, but he has an online business and he's doing really well for himself. Like, the last time I spoke with him and stuff and everything, I think he was making like a good amount of money, like a month. I met him in college and stuff. I'll connect you with him and stuff and everything. Like he's pretty like successful, like in the business world and stuff. He does
Cool,
a
yeah.
lot of, yeah, he does a lot of like motivational speaking and stuff too, and like just like a really cool guy. And he moved to Colombia. Like he said, he's like he's never coming back. Like, you know what I mean, to the United States and stuff. Everything. He's like, it's great. And like he shows me some of the women and stuff that he dates. I'm like, wow, yeah. Like this is seems like the life. Like, you
Awesome. Yeah, connect me with them. I would be curious how he
know.
did it.
Yeah. But like definitely, Arthur, I really appreciate you for taking the time. I'll post the link so you can increase your SEO. Definitely share you know, what do you have plans for, like, today for?
I'm just going to go up with a friend and watching a football game. That's it. So I'm gonna do work for 3 more hours, and then I'm gonna meet up with him and watch the game.
Definitely, man. Arthur, man, I really appreciate talking with you, and I appreciate you for taking the time.
Me too. Thank you so much, man. And I feel honored that you invited me for this interview.
Almost definitely. I enjoy speaking with you. I think you have a really interesting perspective. I like the fact, like, that you're talking about honesty and authenticity. And I think it's a lot different than, like, some of the dating coaches online where they're kind of like talking about, like, being manipulative and playing games. So, like, I appreciate that and I salute you for your work.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.
You too.